Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a little something on the bench here. We're gonna just kind of go through a couple things. Seeing a lot of questions about how all these things work. So we're dealing with different types of BECs. So that's kind of what we're gonna get into today. East Coast Thrills, how's it going? See if I get my chat window popped up here. All right, got everything working here. Jeans RC, how's it going? So I just want to go through a couple things and then do like a little Q&A, but I wanted to show you guys some stuff. I'm seeing some people online that are kind of saying some stuff about BECs that just doesn't really work out. What is a BEC? How does it work? How to connect the receiver? There's all kinds of different things. So I just wanted to go through a couple of things, and then I'll also show you something that I've been using that's kind of cool. So we'll get to the receivers here in a minute. I'm just going to show like just randomly picked a couple of flight controllers that I'm using, and then also we'll look at an ESC, and then I have some BECs here to kind of go over just how you get the voltage that you require. You know, we all know that, you know, certain all-in-ones like this one, you have your positive and your negative side. And then the voltage and current goes through some filter components, but ultimately they'll end up in, you know, producing some sort of outputs. So on this particular all-in-one flight controller, this is the F35A all-in-one. For this flight controller, kind of an all-in-one. It's meaning that, you know, the flight controller, the ESC, the power distribution board, all that is in one space. And it has a 5-volt output here, has a 5-volt output here, a 5-volt output here, and then it also has a 10-volt output. So if we look here, there's two bucks on this that create, these are coils that create the different voltages. But keep in mind that I think some people are getting confused because these BECs, if you up your voltage, you reduce your amperage. So that's another thing people are saying, like, you know, I just connect it to the 10-volt BEC. Some of these other, you know, especially these VTXs like the air unit and stuff like that, they may take more. So you need to look at the specifications. I'll get on an internet page here for you so you can kind of see that. But you might exceed the amp rating for the BEC you're using because it's shared. So this isn't like an independent 10 volt or an independent 5 volt. They're shared throughout. So you need to keep that in mind. Some BECs are, some of the old ones are just 1 amp. Like you couldn't do anything more than 1 amp. As more and more demand came along, they've increased the size of these. Let's look at an older one. So like this is like one of the first MK versions of the Mamba board, and it has a 5-volt output here. But on this one, the BEC doesn't have that many output. It has a 1.5 amp. I don't know if you can see that with the lighting. So this has a 5-volt 1.5 amp output. So if you load your camera, your VTX, let's say you have some LED lighting or maybe a controller, or you have a real pit where you're switching on and off a servo, you know, you're going to overload that pretty quick, 1.5 amps. I have a video in my channel. If you go to the playlist, they're quick tips videos. Hey, what's up, FPV Gaps? Yeah, don't call me. So I have a video on that on my channel. If you go to the quick tips, it kind of goes through how you can measure the amp rating of your quad sitting still, so that's without the motor having any input. So just the quad powered up sitting on the bench will give you a good idea of what that power consumption is. You might want to look at that. Like if you're flying and you're having brownout issues, your VTX is losing, or you're fail safing. That's kind of what this live stream is about. I'm seeing some people talking about fail safes and they're not really understanding what's going on. I think the issue that they're having is the fact that they're running. Oops. I think they're running like they're running their 5-volt supply from their BEC on their flight controller. Let me get a better picture. Let's use this one. So we have our 5-volt output on our BEC, and they connect their receiver up to that BEC. Well, they also have all this other stuff hooked up to it. They're trying to power their whole system. I even seen like some of the thumb cameras would be connected into a BEC. So I just wanted to say that you may end up feeding your receiver too low of a voltage. So when you punch and you sag your battery, you may end up having some issues like that. So here's like some of the older stuff. Jam 2.1, how you doing? Omar Prez. The Diamond F4 setup video. Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. More props to you. Yeah. That's how the name of the channel came about. PropsOff, because you have to remove your props whenever you hook a lipo up to your quadcopter. So I just thought, hey, my channel is going to be mostly about bench. So anyway, this is a power distribution board. This is a Maytech power distribution board. This is for kind of your old school builds, if you will. Nobody seems to be using independent ESCs much anymore. But they have a built-in BEC, and they have built-in filtering, stuff like that. So on this particular unit, you can see that there's not much to it, but it does have a 5-volt rail on it. So we can connect things to get our 5-volt out. Right here's ground, here's 5-volt. And then I think it might actually have another one here. Yep, 12-volt. So it has a power switching 12-volt in there as well. So 2 different BECs on this piece here. Let me see if I can. Probably ought to use a micro camera. But anyway, it was kind of interesting in the hobby when this kind of started coming along, because previously we were using, like an independent BEC, or we're using, they were kind of big. I don't have any anymore, but they were kind of large, and they would reduce the power of the LiPo to create that voltage that we needed. Now, I've been using these for quite some time. These are Maytech BECs. The reason why I like them is because they have the most filtration. So like, here's how small it is, something of that nature. So you have the ability to add a BEC to your build. So if you go to my channel and in the playlist for video, best video, I think it's best FPV video, I use a BEC to supply my VTX and camera, so it's independent of the ESC and flight controller. This particular BEC has the ability to go up to, I think this one's 12-volt. Yeah, so 5 or 12-volt, and you can input 2 to 5S. And then they came out with even a smaller one, and you can see this dude is pretty small. It has some really nice filtration on it, and this one here has an input of 6 to 30 volts. So this would be 6S capable. So if you're a 6S pilot and you need to add a 5 or even a 12-volt BEC. Actually, this one's 9, so this is a 9-volt output. And there's just a solder pad in the corner. I don't really want to get into too much detail about it, other than the fact that you can build really, anything out of these to to be able to filter your video, to supply a servo, to change different aspects. They also have something called a reel pit. So you hook this to a UART, and you can have a switch on your radio to cut the power completely off. It's literally like a light switch that connects to a UART. It's called a reel pit. I have a video a long time on my channel how to make these work. But if you put these in conjunction, you can have some, some pretty neat options about that. They also make all kinds of different styles of BECs out there, so you can connect to your bounce lead that'll output, voltage to a. Let me pull this out. This has a type USB-C connector on it, okay? And then here's the BEC, so you can connect it to your bounce lead. And you can get your output for your, like a 5 volt. I'd have to read the specifications on it. I think it's a 5 volt output USB-C. So I don't know if anybody would be, you can charge your cell phone kind of thing. I don't know if I'd want to hook my cell phone up to this one though. So those are different kinds of BECs and how they work. I also want to show you, even on ESC, let me jump over here to the internet. Well, I'll tell you what. Sorry, technical difficulties here. Just got to beat on it a little bit, right? All right, so we'll jump over here to the internet and just quickly look at. So this is a ESC that I use in quite a few of my builds. This is the 55 amp Pro 2 ESC. And what's unique about this ESC is that it has a built-in BEC. So this has a 10 volt BEC built into it. But I want you to notice right here, this BEC is a 10 volt output, but it only outputs 2 amps. So if you connect this BEC to like some sort of flight controller, and you have an air unit and you have your small camera running off, it's only a 2 amp output. And I believe that that's maybe where some of the people are having an issue, where they're thinking they can up this voltage. But keep in mind, when you up your voltage, you're reducing your amps. So just keep that in mind, that these have a limit of how many amps they can supply. So yeah, this is a really good ESC. I've been using for quite some time. Let me make sure I got my internet source here. Yep, my mouse is still working. So this is the Maytech BEC that I was showing earlier. I just wanted to blow it up for you so you could see it better. This has a pad here, so you can have if you don't connect this pad, you can have 5 volts output. If you do connect this pad, it'll output 9 volts. Okay, 5 volt 9 put out, 1.5 continuous with a 2.5 maximum amps. I'm not sure if that's an overheat issue or why they would say it's max of 2.5. And of course you can do 2S to 6S input here. The ground for the input, and then the ground for the output, and then it just simply outputs there. I mean, this thing's like the size of my fingernail. I mean, it's pretty small. And then it comes in a 3-pack. But yeah, here's just, it's the size of a micro SD card. So this is kind of what I recommend if anybody needs to purchase an external BEC. This is my go-to. I've never had really any issues with it. All right, so I'll just show you here in my playlist real quick. So this is my, oops, I didn't mean to hit play all. So here's my playlist. This video right here is the one that I'm talking about for analog video. I spent, you can see in the history of this thing, I've spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to get perfect analog. So this is the video that you'd most likely be interested in, and that's the BEC that I would recommend for the job. Let me see here. I just wanted to show you the other one that I have. So this is the quick tips folder. So if you have a question about how much amperage your quad is pulling with the motors off, now obviously you're going to remove your props, you're going to connect a LiPo to it through your multimeter, and then you can measure how many amps your quadcopter. So this one here, what is the full draw? So if you have everything connected to your flight controller with the 5-volt BEC or the 10-volt BEC, and it has a maximum of 2 amps, and you plug this thing in and you're running, 1.8 amps, you might want to go with an external BEC on something in your build, so that you don't brown out your receiver. So let's jump back over to the bench here and catch up on chat. Hey, looks like we had a couple. Philip came in, just lurking. And Recco. How's it going, Josh? Yeah, crazy stuff in that link. And then play East Coast Thrills, meant to say. You're welcome, Gene. Yeah, if you Rect, if anybody's familiar with Rect, their store is here in Ohio. Carries about everything I can ever imagine. I hate to say it, but I might be a bad influence too, because I've made a few phone calls of like, please, can you carry this? Because it's a weird thing that nobody wants to carry, and then he does, and then nobody orders it, and then he's stuck with it. No, we'll have to make sure that we get stocked on stuff that turns over. But this is it right here. Let me show that again. Well, it's on the internet page here. Let me see. Yeah, that Maytech BEC is quite something. Let's jump back over here and show you. Oops. I finally learned my lesson of why that was doing that. Told myself not to do it. Bear with me 1 second here. I think I changed my my file. There we go. Good grief. So yeah, this is the one that I think is kind of a takes care of them all. It is a 9-volt output. They do make a 12-volt output, but the input voltage is 5S. I just don't think too many people are going to use that one compared to this one. Somebody come in here I didn't see. You know what a BEC is? Joshua Tree. I know what a BEC is, but I showed up anyway. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna I kind of wanted to go through everything kind of real quick and then answer any questions people might have about the BEC. There's really, oh, I wanted to show you the real pit. Let me show you where that video is. It's kind of ways down the list. But the real pit setup is somewhat an interesting thing. So to have a, oops, keep hitting the wrong button here. All right, so let me jump over here to I did it again. Boy, that's frustrating. Yeah, I'm learning my lesson. Bear with me a little bit. I'm not a live stream guru by any means. I just tried to come up with as many ways as I could to show people what I'm trying to do here. So the real pit, let's pull that up here. Here's my real pit video. Yeah, it's 5 years old, but I mean, it's still kind of the same scenario. There's really not a whole lot of changes to do. So there's kind of a process of getting that to work, but it's a really neat thing. I think people don't know exist, or I'm not sure if it's just a availability thing because I have a pile of them, so I've never really had to search for them. But this device you connect to your quadcopter, your 5-volt, or let me make sure I got the rail right. So you can input 5 to 28 volts and it outputs 1 amp, and you can switch things on and off. So it's literally a light switch. So this is the video you'd be after if you wanted to know more about the real pit. So yeah, kind of went through a bunch of things real quick. Anybody have any questions about any of this, or maybe something they seen on the channel, or just something you're struggling with? I have a little bit of time before dinner to do a Q&A. Yeah, bandwidth is pretty important. Yeah, but I do believe that might be some of the issues when I just look at a couple pictures, because I'll have somebody send me a picture of their build, and then I'll see they have so many things on their build. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to show you the other one for my whoop buddies out there. This is pretty neat. Got these on Amazon. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way here. So this is kind of neat. These little BECs come in about that big. If you want measurements, I can get that for you. But this input is 5 volts or 2.2 volts. So this is a 1S LiPo BEC that outputs a very nice 5 volts. So if you wanted to, you could connect this to any of your whoops and power up things from a Whoop battery, and it outputs 5 volts. So this is a great thing to connect to a receiver. If you're doing a wing or something, you can connect this to your bounce lead and input your cell 1. You know, you can just pick a cell or just know your battery well enough to know what cell's the strongest, and connect this to a single cell in your 5 or 6S pack and run a 5-volt line to your receiver or any other thing. So these are really neat. Yeah, it goes from 0.9 volts to 5 volts input. That's what makes it special. Because if you run your small builds down, so like if you're using a vape battery or something, that's pretty cool. And that's what runs my PropsOff advertising drone that my line of sight quad. Have you seen that? Run over and get it. So I have one of these BECs down inside. This quadcopter's modular, so I can take this whole thing off the top, and then it would just be the 75mm quad, you know, in case it breaks or something happens to it. But this battery's like 3.8 volts, and it lights up all my LEDs, and I have no issues with that. I put a 1S LiPo on one of these and had my meter on it for a while, and it didn't really get hot. It didn't. I just had a small load on it though, and it worked out great. So that's a cool thing. I got them on Amazon. So if you want to turn your LiPo that may end up putting out 3.5 volts, you know, that's gonna not be a great thing for a receiver. If you watch the link, I posted, these guys say that a DJI drone video transmitter is 500 milliwatts. These guys are running 1 watt video transmitters. Yeah. So you put a link in, if you put a link in chat, I don't think it'll come up. East Coast. Yeah, but the guys that are running like 1 watt VTXs, they definitely need to come up with a proper power supply for that. Diatone makes a nice little cheap bet. You know, Diatone makes some good stuff. I've not had too many issues with Diatone. Everything I'd have to say, there's really not too many issues I've ever had. I've had quite a few Diatone parts. I'll have to check that out. Is it actually, I'm gonna look it up right now. Diatone BEC. Is that 5 volt? Okay, so let's see here. 2 amp BEC, 5 to 9 volt. You know, I am searching out, I'm trying to find a 6S solution that has a 12 volt output at 2 amps or maybe even 3 amp. But then you get the BEC size starts getting, you know, larger and larger. So let's look at the Diatone BEC here. See if I can do this without it. Huh. I know what I'm doing wrong. I just can't believe that I just keep doing it though. All right, here we go. So here's the BEC. So 9 to 5 volts, and then the input, nine volts at 12 to 25. They don't really give a whole lot of specs other than, they're saying 2 amp. I don't know. I'd have to argue. I'd have to test it. I can't believe that will output 5 volt 2 amp and 9 volt 2 amp. I'd have to test it. But it does look to be quite small. 0.91. I like that they don't put anything on the back so you can stick it wherever. So 12 to 30 volts. So this would be a good matchup, I guess. Looks like they have some pretty decent filtration. I might have to check this one out. Thanks for the tip. Five volt BECs are good for in a long range 1S build since the voltage input dropped to 2.5. That's exactly it. I, I I believe that that's kind of where we're at with this. That their BEC is not supplying enough voltage. Oh, the little flying signage. That was for the United States Air Force Museum. Because previous years I had volunteered to kind of do PR, so I'd stand and talk to the crowd when they come in. This past year, I just wanted to be a pilot and just hang out and fly and be obnoxious. So I built this super loud. I found these are VCI motors from Rec, and they definitely have a unique sound, and the props are loud, and the airflow off of the billboard is making it more obnoxious. So it's quite loud. But I tell you what, the kids had such a blast watching it, because it's all lit up and everything. So it was fun every time there'd be a large group of kids or something. I'd fly over to them, and then the next day there was even more people flying line of sight, quads like all lit up. Came up with some really neat creations, and we did a formation. I think it's 4 of us that were formation flying around the museum. That was super fun. Yeah, 5 volt 2 amp. Yep. East Coast Thrills. Appreciate you stopping by and hitting the thumbs up button. So does anybody have any questions about any of this quick information? I just kind of threw it all out there, but I just really think that the primary reason to show these things is to let you know that if you overload that BEC that's built into your flight controller, you know, if you're overloading that system right there, that's going to be an issue. If you burn it out, then you'll plug it in with USB. See, that's the other thing. Let me explain that real quick. The voltage coming in from your LiPo goes through filtration, and then it goes into a buck that brings for 1S moot boards, brings that voltage up to 5 volts, because all your gates on the components, the zeros and ones, they need to have 0.7 or 0.07 volts or 5 volts to know what to do. So if that gets burnt out, your flight controller doesn't want to work unless you plug it in USB. If you plug in your flight controller USB, all this stuff is ignored. It doesn't need this stuff because it's directly supplying 5 volts to all your peripherals. So, but what I believe I'm seeing on Facebook, some of these people are having issues is because they have these all-in-ones. They have them power packed with all kinds of stuff. They're outputting a ton of, they're just too much amp draw, so they're browning out the receiver. And that receiver doesn't have any, if we just look at like this is pretty normal for a lot of ELRS users. They're using just these EP or RP versions. There's no, this needs 5 volts, and it needs a nice continuous 5 volts. If you brown this out, then you're going to change your frequency. This chip right here is not going to get what it needs, and your frequency is going to go 2.48, 2.47, 2.4. So your transmitter's having to jump around trying to make that work, and you'll get fail safes. So don't brown out your rails. VCI motors so far, the VCI motors have done really well. I mean, you can imagine how heavy this thing is with a 450 LiPo. And I'm running about 50, maybe 45% throttle at a hover. So it's pretty heavy. I might be around 40% hover. But yeah, those little dudes in there are just cranking away. No issues so far. I haven't seen any degradation of the varnished wire, the magnet wire in there. And then also these are ball bearings instead of using bushings. I'm still on the fence about that. I really am. I don't want to go, oh, ball bearings, because in this size of motor, the bushing style motor, you just give them a little bit of lubrication and they're amazingly efficient. They don't sound, they don't have as much high pitch sound coming from them, and just they're smooth. So you just a little bit of oil on that bottom E-clip and you're good to go. I made my own oil syringe. This is just a child's medication dosage, and then the red straw that you get with a chemical sprayer, the WD-40 or whatever. And then I took some shrink tubing and sealed that all in with some hot glue, and then I cut a little angle on it so I can get into that motor and lubricate right inside that hole there with a tiny little drop. Obviously not these VCI motors, you don't have to oil. Jesse Perkins has motor lube on his website. I just use air compressor, or not air compressor, but air tool oil. Air tool oil is a thin viscosity. It can handle a lot of heat, and it bonds into the metal really well. So I like impact oil for that. Yeah, the 5. So Josh was asking, can I use the bypass for a dead regulator? Yes. Yeah, you could put one of these BECs in place of that 5-volt regulator and tie it into your 5-volt rail. I would imagine you're going to have to disable components so you don't overheat or short something, though. You might have to take and remove your buck, the little coil, just crush it and peel it out of there. I use air tool lubricant rated for 60K. Yeah, air tool oil. Omar, you use air tool oil for lubrication on the drone parts too? The bushing style motors are lighter. I don't know if they're lighter. I would have to argue they'd be heavier because the brass bushing is, brass is a little bit lighter material than the steel ball bearings and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd have to measure one. I don't own but 4 of them. BCI was going to send me some motors, and then I decided not to do it. I hate to say it. I've turned down a lot of manufacturers for sending me stuff, because here's the thing. I'm not a greedy person by any means, but if I'm going to do content on a product, I would expect at least, some even trade. So $6 worth of motors to do 2 hour video editing and filming all that stuff. It just wasn't something I wanted to do, and I'm not gonna tell anybody that something's good if it's not. I've contacted almost every manufacturer over the years and said I would like to test your prototypes. I want to test the gear that you're about to send out. I wanna go through it, and I want to know about it, and I want to help you make it better so that when people get it, they have a great experience. Um, and I just want that negotiation to happen where there's no catch, or there's no obligation for me to say awesome things or whatever. So Vifly's pretty much the only one that's taken me up on that offer. The Whoopster V3 charger, I helped during the designing phase of that, and I tested their prototype. And there's a couple things I didn't like, and they right away made software changes. They never once asked me for anything. They just sent it to me. They wanted to know what I thought about it, what people thought about it, and um, yeah, they made a heck of a good product. So the newbie drone 0702 802 Mars. So they have uh, dual ball bearings on those, huh? They're chunky. I haven't used any newbie drone stuff as far as I know. Um, these are VCI, and then I've got some Happy Model motors, and then branded motors that Happy Model makes. Yeah, I thought it was reasonable. I think the biggest thing with this hobby is for me doing the live stream thing, because I've talked to so many people that don't have anyone in their area to like bounce ideas off of. They're flying by themselves, and I thought maybe doing the live stream would kind of have a little more interaction than just putting out an edited video. I could have done an edited video of the Becks, but it saves me time, and there's more interaction between me and whoever might be out there. I don't know if my live streams will get spontaneous or less spontaneous and have more of a plan. I don't know if I'll purchase a camera so I show my face. I'm really not into the face to camera thing. Um, I'm really good looking, so I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. But no, this is again, yeah. So yeah, kind of a little session on that. Anybody out there have a question for me before I wrap this up and head up to dinner? I think I'm on an 8 second delay, so I was just making sure. One, two, three, 4, 5. Oh, we're on a 4.5. Oh no. Yeah, we're still about 7, 8 seconds. On the live stream and showing face. You never watch. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a. I'm pretty average looking. So Josh was out in the boonies. Yeah, you fly alone. Uh, what state are you in? I always thought about like doing like a meetup thing. Um, I just kind of like earlier and more when I was more into freestyle, I was just kind of searching out people that had never flown with someone before. And I think about an hour and 45 minutes, one guy um, got to fly with him, got to see some new spots. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the live stream. If nobody has any questions. Hey, I appreciate you all coming in. I would appreciate it if you thumbs up. I know if you're in comments, you're a subscriber. So if you're not, I'd appreciate that too. So hey, y'all have a great day, and see you on the next live stream. Enjoy the breeze.